your best. Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and the prom queen.
Welcome to the Best Soccer Show, the best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go, Best Soccer Show, backheel.com. Jason Davis, Jared DuBois. I got it right the very first time. Give me some credit, Jared.
That's well done, because you're a creature of habit, and when you say the same thing hundreds of times...
I have, yes. I've been notorious for getting things wrong, saying the wrong... It's not call letters. It's not like we're on a real radio station. We're on backheel.com, brand new home of the Best Soccer Show, open wide for some soccer, seeing red, the New York Soccer Roundup, and plenty more Soccer Fun Portal. That's right. Hashtag Soccer Fun Portal. Hashtag break the internet, Jared.
What would our call letters be? WBEKH.
I don't even want to know. This is going to be bad. Where are you going with this?
I don't know. I just wonder what the call letters would be for this if it was a station.
I thought you were going to say they mean something. Like W means something and B means something. Okay.
Oh, no. I think we're trying to get away with that. I think that's the whole point of backheels, to get away from the anagrams that seem to just litter U.S. soccer. They're everywhere.
We are down. We are getting rid of acronyms around here. We have shifted. We have taken a hard right to. Should we stop calling it BSS or TBSS or whatever we call it?
And that's our fault for making a 4-word title.
Best Soccer Show live on a Wednesday night. So we got plenty to talk about this evening. MLS playoffs. We got to catch up on all of that, Jared. We got matchups to talk about. You got something? Something?
I don't think we've had a show since I threw out there and you did not respond to. So I want to get I think there's a purpose for this show. I realized the other day while surfing the internet that you are only a few hundred followers behind one Mr. Eric Estrada of Chips fame.
This is sad.
I feel the mission of this show, if not the whole new Backheel website, should be a vehicle for getting you above one Eric Estrada. You need to punch it up.
But I'm not tweeting about refrigerators or ovens or whatever the hell Eric Estrada is tweeting about. I feel like this is a sad thing. I feel like this is an indictment of America, Jared. It's an indictment of America. The fact that Eric Estrada is only a few hundred followers ahead of me. Come on. He's Eric Estrada. He is an American television icon. He was part of Chips. People don't even know what Chips means if you don't live in California. That is sad to me.
You know what? If you could be Punch, then I could be John. That's all I'm just saying right now. 7 Mary 3. I could throw a little bit of that out there. But I just feel that U.S. soccer for a while has needed something to rally around. And this could be our thing.
Really? Why? I don't.
Because once you get Eric Estrada, what's next? I mean, how many followers does Mario Van Peebles have? I think there's just another rung in the ladder somewhere in there.
I bet you I'm probably a couple thousand behind the guys from Dukes of Hazzard at least. I don't even know if they're on Twitter, but I'm assuming, right?
Ooh, here's a fun game right now for a listener if you could call in. Who does have more followers, Eric Estrada or Mario Van Peebles?
Find out. Mario Van Peebles has got a lot more followers than Eric Estrada.
You think?
Mario Van Peebles, that man deserves respect. Let's not. I mean, I make some jokes. Eric Estrada, he kind of turned his career into one big joke. I think he wanted to. I think he had fun with it. I think it's great that he did all that stuff. But Mario Van Peebles, come on, that's seriously, the man deserves some respect. Let's not.
We'll set our sights on Urkel next. We'll set our sights on Jaleel White next.
All right, the phone lines are open. 201-430-2378. That is a holdover. I just realized 201-430-2378 is your phone number if you want to get in. Talk about MLS Cup playoffs. Certainly the U.S. national team roster. We're going to have to go over that, Jared.
Hold. I set the bar way too high. Jaleel White with 110,000 followers.
Are you surprised? Really? Are you surprised?
I guess I didn't think it would be that big.
He was Stefan. Steven and Stefan.
My bad on that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The man got quite the following. So we got the MLS playoffs. We've got the U.S. national team roster. We've got places we can go this evening. Jared, for you, I mean, we're in the midst of the playoffs. We're taking the break off. is more important? Friendlies, Colombia, Ireland? Is it the MLS Cup playoffs? Recap everything to this point and talk previews for the conference finals. But I just want to know where your head is.
I think, well, obviously as an LA guy, a fan of LA, first of all, I'm very excited, if not ecstatic, with the performance they put in over RSL. But I admit, I almost did it again. Robbie Keane was unable or unfit or maybe just tentative to even play the game in Seattle just 2 weeks ago. We hear all this talk about he's got some knocks, and then you see him get on a plane to go play with Ireland, and it gets me very nervous that at this time of year, a guy that's been so essential down the stretch is jetting off and putting his body perhaps in jeopardy with one of the biggest two-legged turnarounds coming of the Galaxy's last couple of years, to be honest with you. This is a huge matchup coming up, and it's not like Lee Nguyen or someone like that who's just going, okay, Lee Nguyen's going across the pond too, but all indications are Lee Nguyen's going for one game. Robbie Keane's going for 2 games.
Sure, and there's a quality in that as well. So is it both of them? Only one of them qualify, right? There's definitely a competitive difference between what Lee Nguyen's going to, Jermaine Jones is going to face, what Robbie Keane's going to face. Yeah, I love how you just made it about you, right? I mean,
you asked me how I felt.
Whether or not the national team's prominence over MLS Cup playoffs are still that's what our less mode was asked, because that's where I'm going to.
Listen, I'm okay with taking the international break. We've asked, fans of MLS have asked for quite some time to respect the international calendar and to break when MLS breaks. And this is unfortunately, because we're still on the calendar that isn't the international calendar as a whole, these are the type of things we have to deal with. Hopefully, Bruce Arena put a 20 in Jurgen Klinsmann's pocket and said, "Hey, be careful with." Actually, not in Jurgen Klinsmann's pocket. Bruce Arena's having anyone on this week because Omar did not get the call up for this one. So I don't know. I feel like if you want them to respect the calendar, this is the type of things you have to deal with. We complained for years that guys were having to play through and missing MLS games. They did the right thing. They took the break, and this is what you have to deal with now. And it's unfortunate. DeAndre Yedlin and Clint Dempsey are both going to have to jet off around the world and take part in this.
Well, you expect him to be called in for the second game? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I know he's not on the first one, but some people, like, take for example, a lot of it has been made from Lee Nguyen's probably not going to be there for both. I think maybe you see Dempsey going out for one, but it seems odd that if you're going to bring Dempsey for one, why wouldn't you bring him for the Craven Cottage game for the marketing aspects just alone?
Why? I think that's going to from they're happy that the roster gives them plenty of time to rest. I think that this is obviously, this is still the start of the cycle, and you're trying to figure out how to get new talent into the situation, into the pool. And I don't know. I mean, why Dempsey? Why call in Jermaine Jones? Why call in these guys that already know enough about them that you probably don't need to bring them another time? Are you having issues with me right now, Jared?
A little bit, but because F MLS, that's why. Jurgen Klinsmann, do you think he wants to do Don Garber any favors right now? Do you think that relationship is in a place where he wants to be doing solids for Don G? No, he's going to call in who he wants to call in because that's how it works. He gets to make the call. So yeah, Jermaine Jones makes the trip. Yeah, Lee Nguyen makes the trip. DeAndre Yedlin makes the trip. But what really tells you is, where does Omar Gonzalez rank that he doesn't get the call up? In all this. So does that mean your Omar Gonzalez somehow has fallen down the depth chart a bit? Because LA right now is the only team that's not getting any guy called up to the U.S. national team.
I am not going to judge those situations from these rosters. That is the wrong way to go. Because, first of all, we still, it's impossible. You're Klinsmann, pin him down. Try to pin him down, really. I mean, he's a greased pig. The man does not, you can catch him to figure it out. I don't think you can judge Omar Gonzalez's status in the national team based on the fact he was called in the roster. Just like I don't think you can really judge whether or not Gyasi Zardes is really a player that Klinsmann likes based on the fact he's not in this roster.
Okay,
second game.
Well, listen, if you're going to bring in a college guy and a second division guy, why not Giassi Zardes?
No, I agree with that. That's what I'm saying, though. His demand throws curveball after curveball after curveball to the point where you cannot figure where he is coming from. I have no idea where he's coming from. He's calling in Wood, who got to the reserve Munich. He's calling in Jordan Morris, who was a college kid with zero professional experience. He's calling in Jermaine Woods and putting him at center back. Try to figure it out. Tell me what's going on, because I have no.
And this is not a very speculative roster. I mean, a lot of these guys are the guys you expect on the full-fledged roster, minus Michael Bradley, who had surgery, minus Clinton Dempsey, who maybe he's just giving Seattle some a break and letting the guy stay there with the team. But for the most part, these are a lot of the guys you expect to be with the full team. So if you're going to experiment and bring in a Miguel Ibarra, who had a wonderful chip, if people haven't seen it, go out there and find that over the weekend. If you're going to bring in Jordan Morris, I just say, why not a guy that's been playing very well for one of the best teams in MLS, who is a archetypical copy of Josie Altidore in terms of physicality and build. Those are the same guy.
I'm with you, but you're taking Klinsmann's roster
logic
and trying to divine out of it. There is no logic inherent in what you're doing. Doesn't exist. Let's roster real quick and do our patented break. You stop me if you talk about any of these guys. Goalkeeper Raguzan, John, Nick. I don't know why you need to take 4, but that's fine. No problem with any of those guys.
Nah, Sean Johnson. I'm surprised Sean Johnson's still getting these calls. It's almost like a legacy pick at this point.
Who would you call it instead?
I'd bring in Steve. I'd bring in Steve Clark.
Okay, fair enough. Steve Clark would probably be a decent there. Defenders: DeMarc Beasley still getting called. Hunter Beasler, Brooks, Jeff Cameron, Timmy Chandler, Greg Garza, Fabian Johnson, Jermaine Jones, and DeAndre Edlin.
I think that's a really, really solid picks back there. And to be honest with you, if you were going to bring Omar Gonzalez, I'm not necessarily sure who you would drop out of this in terms of center back. You're not going to drop Beasler, even though he didn't look good down the stretch after the World Cup. Go ahead.
Well, that you're not bringing in, you're not able to bring in Gonzalez and continue his development, and you're not even you can't give a shot to a guy like Matt Hedges, who's the defender that I will put on the Giassi Zardes level. Hugo, where the hell are these guys? Why aren't they getting a shot?
Let me throw one more at you. What about Chris Schuler?
Okay, Chris Schuler. Part of me has kind of passed by Chris Schuler because of his age. I know that's probably not fair. He obviously got stuff left in the tank. But I look at Matt Hedges, 24 years old. I look at Emilio Kugo, early 20s, and I think those guys are future players you can carry all the way through 2018. Whereas Chris Schuler maybe has 3, 4, 5 years or 3 or 4 years maybe at the top of his game before he starts to slow down enough that you worry about it.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from on that, but I just think you're going to need a mix of guys who can produce and cover you now. And combined with, we're not just looking 4 years from now, and Chris Schuler might be one of those guys, but I'll agree with you. Matt Hedges is the type of guy where you're looking to see that he's right on the cusp of getting that call up. I really think Chris Schuler, unfortunately, may fall into that Chad Marshall kind of stereotype where, unfortunately, at all the right times where he was the guy to get the call up, he got some of the most unfortunately timed injuries that are going to hinder his national team career. Granted, right now, I think he's one of the top 4 defenders in MLS right now. I put Hedges in there. I put Omar Gonzalez in there. I would put Chad Marshall. Chad Marshall probably deserves to be in that conversation right now as well. But I think the ship has sailed on Chad Marshall at a U.S. national team level.
Yeah, Chad Marshall's 29 years old. And that's not old. And especially for a
He's only 29?
You can't imagine. He's not... 29. Can you believe that? Can you believe that Chad Marshall's only 29?
And Chris Schuler's 27, just to give a heads up. Chris, he's not that far down the line.
I said that's what I'm saying. I said he's 27. By the time you get to 28, he's going to be 30, 31 years old. I don't want to out. Keep trying, Jonathan. We'll try to. Midfielders: Kyle Beckerman, Alejandro Bedoya.
Alfredo Morales, and Lee Win. Any issues there?
I love
Kyle Beckerman. Is he there because the veteran mentor, the student thing? You're cool with that kind of thing?
Kyle Beckerman's there because he's still one of the top center midfielders in the U.S. system. And until he's not, I would expect to give him a call. He's a leader in a team that's missing a few right now. There's a team in transition. You're not going to have Dempsey there. Obviously, Donovan's not going to be there anymore. You don't have Tim Howard there. You don't have Michael Bradley there. You need some leaders on this team. Jermaine Jones is going to be one. Kyle Beckerman is going to be the other. Josie Altidore may get the armband in this one because we saw that recently where he got the armband against the youth guys. I don't know that I agree with that, but Kyle Beckerman is going to be a leader. He's going to be a marshal in the midfield. And in terms of by having Kyle Beckerman in there instead of someone like Michael Bradley, you could still play a lot of the same type of game you would play if Bradley was there. Now, granted, Kyle Beckerman is not going to get the same thing. You're not going to get the same thing at Kyle Beckerman going forward as you get with Bradley, but you could still make a lot of the same kind of moves. Take, for example, if Mixed Diskerud's future is playing in front of a holding midfielder, you could still try to experiment with that by having Beckerman in there instead of Bradley.
Are you buying? And I saw something today, and I'm going to confirm this, but I saw something today that said that Mix is a free agent now, that his contract has completed there. I don't know if that. We'll have to monitor that situation.
I would love
him to sold on the fact that Mixed. Yeah, well, duh. The idea that Mixed Diskerud has fully transitioned himself into a competent box-to-box midfielder?
No, and that's why I think I like the idea of still having that insurance guy behind him like a Beckerman or a Bradley. But I will give him this. I think Mixed Diskerud has looked consistently good over the last 3 to 4 games where he's been put in that role. So I don't have too much. Am I sold? No, but that may be just because I don't have the breadth of evidence at my disposal. I still think that in the short term that we've seen, I don't think he's looked out of place at all.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, this seems to be the consensus, though, that everybody is sort of just buying the fact that Mixed Diskerud has transitioned from this more attacking-minded number 10 that doesn't play a whole lot of defense to a full-on competent box-to-box midfielder.
Well, defend that a little bit, or just extrapolate that. Well, extrapolate that a little bit, because what do you feel is the reasoning for why you're not convinced, or someone may not be convinced?
I don't really have a reason. I can't prove a negative. I'm just saying that it doesn't seem that he's had enough time being that guy, showing us consistently he can do that, especially at the international level, that we should just all sort of buy into this, what we thought he was, which for a long time, the knock against him was that he didn't play enough defense for he wasn't getting his shot. Now, like I said, all of a sudden he's this guy who can suddenly defend and can go and break up play, or he's turning into a deep lying midfielder. I've seen that as well, that he's a playmaker from deep. He's more of a Pirlo now. When did all of this? When did he put on a cape and suddenly become something else? I mean, I'm okay. I'm not saying he's not developing.
You're somehow surprised that American soccer fans are
No, that's saying
to tend to go a little bit overboard.
Surprised by that, and that's why I asked you the question. I'm not. Maybe that's Mix's future, but I guess I have to see it more to believe it. I think is part of this. John,
let me just. Okay, go ahead.
Let's see if this connection works. Yeah, I believe you're here, John. What's going on?
Yeah, you were writing about dial-up modems earlier. Then
I know.
Just
crushed by
whatever connection you're on. Listen,
yeah, it's not dial-up, but it's pretty close.
I wanted to tell you that story was fantastic.
Thank you. We haven't even addressed it yet here, Jared. The soccer and the internet story at backheel.com. Go read it. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Well, and I will betray to the listeners that you and I discussed it a little bit over the weekend when we were at RFK. I thought you were like writing a book or something like that. I didn't realize it was coming down today.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really committed to a book. I'm not sure.
John, if it makes you feel better,
he didn't take.
If it makes you feel better, John, he didn't take me into account at all, and I was a huge '90s internet BBS geek, and he didn't ask me either.
What was your soccer internet presence, Jared? explain your soccer connection.
Just like you were talking about when they were talking about the Usenet groups and stuff like that, that's the kind of stuff that was the only way before Big Soccer. Even as a 15 to 18-year-old kid, was getting news. And for people who don't know, and so John can comment on this, we should set it up just a little bit. Jason wrote a really good piece that's out on Backheel, our new site, where he explored the kind of the dark ages of internet and soccer, and where they both kind of met each other, and how extrapolated from there all the way up to modern day Twitter ranting. And I mean, I was a kid of the 90s that across the street from me, kids running a BBS were running BBSs, and in the age before email and internet, these use groups and the WWIV, FidoNet, these type of things, you found these other people in the ether, like 2 or 3 somewhere in the ether, that also wanted to talk about soccer. And you guys did a great job kind of discussing almost the vacancy that was there, yet the little bit of life that was there within that vacancy.
Yeah, something like that. It was, it's obvious. The point of the piece was to kind of explore the evolution from way back when, what you're talking about, even to the listserv of the North American Soccer listserv that was the home to people like Phil Shane, Bob Lee was involved. Back in the day, all the way up to the present day, sort of where we are with Twitter and its ubiquitous nature. John, you have anything else, man?
Let me ask you this, Jared. Were you an Emerald City Gazette subscriber the way I was?
Was I what? I'm sorry?
Emerald City Gazette?
Ooh, no, I was not. That sounds like, what was it, a Seattle BBS?
What was it, John?
No, this was a guy. He's still now based down in North Carolina. He was a Kansas City Wizards fan who ran an actual printed fanzine for a few years.
Really?
And wow. I used to get the mail back in the day, and I about what, I don't know, maybe a dozen years ago at this point, worked with a guy who Jason knows well, Jay Hutcherson, who runs USSoccerPlayers.com now, and in the back of the day was the brains behind a website called InternetSoccer.com, which was sort of one of the first places everybody went at a point in time when you couldn't get a game from the Washington Post or the New York Times until the next day. And I wrote with Kyle McCarthy and a bunch of other guys for a little monthly webzine that they ran. And one of the guys who I wrote with, I actually ran into at the tailgate at Lot 8 on Saturday. I hadn't seen him in years.
That's amazing.
I thought all of them when I was reading your piece, Jason, and it brought back a lot of great memories.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call, Jonathan. Let's go. Connection's a little rough there. It's a nice trip down lane. I mean, I was not, delving into the internet and soccer back in the 90s. That wasn't really my focus at the time in life. But
I'm not going to lie to you, Jason.
Helped me. Look, if the internet.
I'm not going to act like my main goal on those boards wasn't to find very pixelated pictures of women, but in the off time, while that was waiting to download, I would try to find a little bit of soccer content.
But you did what you needed to do. I mean, you were a teenager in the brand new digital age. I mean, it's pretty.
There was no rules. There was no rules.
No, there are absolutely no. Yeah, kids these days completely spoiled. Jared, it takes about. People do not understand how long you had to wait for one picture to download.
The most teasing thing about it was back in the dial-up day, you would get a line of a picture at a time, and it's like, oh my God, I don't care about the face. Just get to the part I want.
All right, I haven't even hit that today. There it is. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Soccer in the internet dark ages. The internet dark ages in general. Just a crazy time to be a teenager, Jared. I don't think kids these days have any appreciation for what we had to go through.
Well, they have no idea.
This is going to be. I said this is going to be our walking uphill to school in the snow both ways. This is going to be our version of that. I had to sit by a dial-up modem and wait for a girly picture to download over the course of half an hour.
Yeah, my kids would not understand my struggle at all. But it was just like there was this time where anything was like you could find stuff like the Anarchist Cookbook. Do you remember how big of a deal it was to get your copy on a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook?
I never was interested in that stuff. It wasn't just the girls. It was
other
stuff. That wasn't my thing.
You never want to learn how to make a tennis ball blow up by putting match heads in it?
No, I wasn't really that kid. I wasn't the blow stuff up kid. I did some other things. Most of my life revolves around sports. I just hadn't fully embraced soccer yet at that point.
I see. I imagine a past where I'm busy like clicking away on a mouse on a 300 baud modem, and Jason's practicing dance moves on cardboard.
I don't even know what that means.
I see he was trying to be a b-boy back in the day. I can see that. I was not remotely like that. But okay, I'm glad that you've got this mental picture. I probably would have been more interesting if I was trying to be that kid. To be honest with you, I was a shy little flower of a kid, Jared. I didn't have any friends. It was kind of a sad upbringing. You don't even know. I haven't told you my whole way to bring the show down, Davis.
Sob story yet. All right, let's talk some MLS. We haven't even got the forwards. We got interrupted a bit there by Jonathan Tanwell, which is fine. Call in 201-430-2378. Jump on in with whatever you talk about, and let's go ahead and talk about these forwards, Jared, very briefly. Unless you had other midfield comments. Any other midfielders you want to talk about?
No, I think more than anything, I'm just happy to see Lee Win in there. I think that takes precedent over anything else that might be going on in terms of midfield. I think that's a good selection overall. And I think what Klinsmann is kind of saying here with the mixed Diskerud, Alejandro Bedoya, these guys keep getting minutes and they keep getting looks. I think Jurgen Klinsmann is kind of showing out there. These are the only guys getting minutes at European clubs right now. And I think that he's trying to show how important, how heavily that weighs on his decision making, because he's said it over and over again. And then these guys are the guys that keep getting the looks when it comes time for U.S. national team minutes.
Yeah, I'm still. Just to continue to get my sense of confoundment out there into the world. Look at the midfielders. It's not that I don't see value in every one of these players, but there's question each of these picks, not every one of the picks, but there are enough questions that maybe you could consider. Okay, well, where's this guy? Where's that guy? Midfield, maybe less so.
Okay, but who's that guy?
Position, well, that's what I'm saying. In the midfield, the only guy that I really want to see, there's a couple of guys, but Will Trapp is one I want to see. If you're calling Beckerman in, you got mixed in. Okay, fine, I understand it, and that's probably a January guy anyway. Moving on to the. This is where things get a little more interesting for me. Josie Altidore, Miguel Ibarra, Jordan Morris, Rubio Rubin, Bobby Wood, Chris Wondolowski. And right now, the names that stick out to me, Jared. Jordan Morris, college kid.
Yeah.
Okay, talented, by all reports, but a college kid. Second call-up. Chris Wondolowski is 30 years old and is not going to feature, I don't think, in any competitive games anytime in the near future. And therefore his national team career is likely over. And Bobby Wood, who hasn't scored in a year for 1860 Munich and got sent down to the reserves for a bit recently for some insubordination or something. And this is where you go, okay, where's Jesse Zardes? Where's that guy? If you were talking about Tesho Akindele, I'm not that high on Tesho Akindele, but maybe him instead of one of these guys. I don't know. What's going on?
I've got a few guys like that. So just give me a quick response of what you feel. Is the trio of Giassi Zardes, Tesho Akindele, and Ethan Finley stronger in your mind than the trio of Miguel Ibarra, Jordan Morris, and Chris Wondolowski?
I certainly know more about those guys. I'll fully admit to that, and therefore I'm extremely biased. I will say yes because of the college kid. It's not
actually. Let's leave Ibarra out of that. Jason, at least leave Ibarra out of that. At least he's earning something at a professional standpoint. Put Bobby Wood in that
sure.
scenario then.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take Ethan Finley above Bobby Wood, wouldn't you?
I would probably do that just to get some variety in there and maybe deepen the pool a bit. Yeah, sure. I think that Ethan Finley's got talent.
You take Tesho Akindele above Bobby Wood?
No, probably not.
What do you got against minors?
I could take that so many different ways. I'm not going to. Tesho had a year for a rookie, scored in the playoffs, has some ability. He's very raw, very raw. And I'm okay with that. But again, you throw Tesho Akindele's name into the mix and you go, really? How is Tesho Akindele behind Jordan? About just
let me go a step farther, Jason. Let's invoke a name that dare not be said and say, isn't Eddie Johnson even probably a better candidate than any three of those guys?
No, based on what I've heard about coming out of DC this season, in fact, he didn't produce at
I'm
all
just
for DC United.
Okay, you're talking about locker room presence and teammate, but in terms of talent,
Eddie Johnson is a very talented player who doesn't work well within systems, generally speaking. So there's that.
I feel dirty even suggesting it.
You certainly want players who are going to buy into what you're doing. Now, I have no idea what Clinton's doing. I hope the guys in those locker rooms know what he's doing. I hope he's conveying the message. I hope he's getting out to them, this is how we're going to go play today. Because otherwise, this is a job. He's not doing his job. So I would imagine that part of this, the Bobby Woods, the Miguel Ibarras, the Rubio Rubins, the Jordan Morrises, is about having players that are completely and utterly moldable within an international setup. They come in with no expectations of playing time. They don't have bad habits from previous international experience. I mean, they're all getting different levels of coaching and different systems back with their clubs, but that's true of everybody. So maybe that's part of it. I'm making this up as I go along.
Well, I think the bigger issue with guys like Miguel Ibarra and Jordan Morris is that it seems like in the past, and maybe this is something that's been a cookie cutter thing that we've gotten used to over the last 8 to 9 years that is now kind of grating on us because it's different with Klinsmann this time around, is that those are the type of guys we were used to seeing in January camps. And that's what we thought about when we think about those up and coming guys. You get their first chance in the January camp. And Klinsmann's flipping the script a bit and saying, no, I'm going to bring him into big time, high spotlight international friendlies against top opposition, and I'm going to see how they stand. And we're not used to that. We're used to them getting eased into these other circumstances. Okay,
fair enough. I mean, you obviously can't call a guy like Rubin into a January camp because he's playing in Holland at the time.
No, I think he's earning it, though.
Bobby Wood, you can't. No, I'm not really you picking him out and criticizing him. I'm just saying that if you're going to say that who doesn't necessarily fit the mold of, I mean, again, it's a matter of what you're trying to do with roster. I actually would prefer guys like that's also because he's starting to prove it on a decent level in a quality league in Europe, even in MLS. I mean, we know that's a good competitive league, and again, that's why we keep bringing up Giassi's artists and that hedges because these guys are consistently playing and delivering results. Whereas a guy like Wood or even a guy like Julian Green, an incredible talent, we all know it. Scored a great goal in the World Cup, fantastic. He hasn't played much for Hamburg on loan from Bayern Munich. He's not doing and does that mean he shouldn't be in the national team? That's up for debate.
Real quick before we go to MLS, have you seen Interstellar yet?
I have not. I hear it's all about love.
Okay, that's fine. But what it's really about for U.S. soccer fans is the fact that the scientist that goes on the trip with them is an exact twin of DeMarcus Beasley.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. The whole time I'm looking, I'm like, how did DeMarcus Beasley get into space?
What are you trying to say that DeMarcus Beasley can't be an astronaut?
No, I'm saying that. No, I'm not saying that. I just didn't think he had the science credentials.
I think you're trying to say that DeMarcus Beasley can't be an astronaut.
Damn, dog, that's an approach.
All right, let's move on to MLS. Talk about the MLS Cup playoffs to this point, Jared. You and I did not do a show on Sunday night. That is when the LA Galaxy destroyed RSL out at the StubHub Center. Were you at that game? Were you able to attend that game?
I did go to that game. So you and I both got to attend MLS matches this weekend.
We did. You got to see the hometown win. I saw the hometown win but lose the series. The LA Galaxy advance facing Seattle, who get a scoreless draw, 0 draw with FC Dallas at home at CenturyLink. 40,000 people in the stands, and on the one away goal they scored in Frisco. And I guess the first question, Jared, because this is the talking point of the week for U.S. soccer fans, for MLS fans, sir. The whole away goal tiebreaker. Go ahead, lodge your whole, whatever you feel about it. Was it fair? Is it not fair? Blah, blah, blah. Tell me.
It's fair because that's what the rule is. So, I mean, I think U.S. soccer fans aren't happy unless they are complaining about something. So either you do what the Europeans do, that's the right way to do it, and then we do it, and then everyone's like, well, why the hell did we do this thing? So, listen, get over it. Get over it. Yeah, there's a rule. The rule was followed. And is there any doubt that the best 4 teams that we probably wanted to see ended up in the semifinal? No.
Well, short of the fact that Columbus and New England had to play each other in the first round, no. I think those.
But did Columbus rise to the occasion?
No, they did not. No, okay. I'm just saying when the playoffs fields were set and we saw the 10 teams, I would have said LA and Seattle, and certainly, and I probably would have said New England and a toss-up between New York and Columbus, just based on the way that they were playing at the time. Now, obviously, Columbus came up against a buzzsaw in the New England Revolution. An absolute buzzsaw. And let me ask you a question that I don't think, some people put it out there a little bit. Are the New England Revolution going to go into, let's say they get past New York, and that's not a done deal. New York can certainly beat them. But if New England gets through, and they're playing as well as they are right now, are they really going to be underdogs to either LA or Seattle? Because I'm not sure they should be.
Yes.
Because it's in their spot, because it's out west?
That's part of it. Even if it's played on a neutral ground, I would say yes. And here's why. Because LA and Seattle finished the entire 30-some game season way better than everyone else. They've shown consistency. They've shown poise. They haven't shown lapses in concentration, 8-game losing streaks. I'm just saying, the question you might be asking, is New England hotter than the other two? Maybe, but they'll be underdogs to either one because of the roster, the amount of salary that's being paid, the profile of the clubs, and the consistency in their records over the course of the season.
Okay, but consistency has nothing to do with what they should be underdogs because it's all based on how you're playing right at this moment. And I know LA dropped 5 on RSL, and Seattle can't score for whatever reason. Okay, I think it's true. LA's a favorite over the Revs, but you wouldn't be surprised if New England won. You wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if it came down 2-1. Revolution beat the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, but the whole point, if you have to say I wouldn't be shocked, tells you that they are underdogs, because otherwise you'd be saying I expect them to.
No, but I'm saying that it's more even, it's more level than you might have thought heading into the playoffs. You automatically assumed that the winner was going to come out of the Western Conference, and I'm not sure that's the case anymore.
Well, and I think recent history, or not even recent history, total history of MLS Cup tells you that that's a misnomer. And you're right when you say it, that the hot team is the one that tends to win and not necessarily the best team over the course of the season. And right now you kind of see that in Seattle. They are sputtering a little bit, but going into people, we seem to forget, we have very short-term memories. Coming out of the RSL home leg, people were asking the same question they're asking about Seattle right now. How come LA can't score? What happened with LA? They scored so many goals. What happened? Then they dropped 5, and then we're like, oh, yeah, that's what they do. Seattle, okay, they had a couple bad games. They're off. Who's to say they're not going to drop 5 on LA, and then we'll be in the exact same position?
I agree. I'm not putting it past Seattle to just fire up the engines right away again at some point, whether it's against LA in this next series or in MLS Cup should they make it. And I guess now that we're looking at this, we have to consider, the Revs are going to be favorites against New York because the Revs are a more complete team right now. Is that fair? Is that the right way to look at it? I certainly think their midfield is stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's... When you think about New York, you think of Thierry Henry and Bradley Wright Phillips and how far they can carry them. When you think of New England, they're pretty consistent all the way around. I still have some questions about their center backs, but because they have such good shielding in front of them in Caldwell and Jones, you tend not to really worry about it too much. So I think that New England is the better team, even possibly the more complete team. The one thing New York has going in their favor is a guy that just don't give an F. Into Thierry Henry. He don't care. He will not show up for 89 minutes and then destroy you for 60 sequence. And then he'll act like it was what he was going to do the whole time. Thierry Henry is the biggest game changer this entire league has. The only question I have about Thierry Henry is he hasn't played in Gillette. So he avoids turf like the plague, and he's going to have to play on it now. I want to see what that looks like.
Well, apparently Petke avoided the question of whether or not Henry would play in Gillette in the second leg to reporters today or yesterday. I don't know if that means that he's avoiding avoiding it because Henry doesn't want to play. He was avoiding it just to keep it open in the minds of the Revs, because that actually is a trump card at their disposal. First leg goes. You don't want to tell New England if Thierry Henry is going to step on that field at Gillette Stadium and play against the Revolution in that second leg. You want them to be not sure. Are we going to face Henry? Are we not going to face Henry? And you are completely right. I was out at RFK on Saturday. I watched Thierry Henry barely jog for 89 minutes. Of the total game, he had one moment where he was somehow, the ball apparently did or did not go out on the touchline. DC sort of stopped, but Henry ends up with a mile of space. He's face up with Sean Franklin, and it's not that he made Sean Franklin look stupid, but all you need is a sliver of space for Henry to whip that cross in. Lyondula makes the right run, and boom, that's DC season over because they shut down on Thierry Henry for 1 second. Yeah. And I thought, otherwise, she did a good job of shutting down Henry. But again, it wasn't that Henry he really was making much effort. He made 1 or 2 off the ball runs I saw. Other than that, it was a walk. It was a nice little stroll in the meadow for Henry. Boom, gets across.
In all fairness, though, New York didn't really have to go in there and play for much. I mean, they didn't.
That was exactly you're exactly right. They didn't have to do that. It's not that they were sitting back necessarily, but Henry didn't need to be full on Henry because of that reason.
Yeah, okay, but if Henry, can we just say right now, if Henry doesn't play in Gillette, can we just say out in the open, that's kind of a bitch move.
I agree, especially considering he's more than likely going to leave the club
in some fashion, whether he retires or he moves on to a different team. I think he's got to play. I don't think you can go out like that.
You cannot. Exactly. That's exactly my point. You can't go out like that. Listen, I get the big star syndrome where it's like, no, I will not play on turf. I can't do French. But I get that that's listen, you get paid a buttload of money to be able to say, hey, I'm not going to do that. You score a lot of goals. You make a lot of chances. You help make the one of the all-time leading goal scorer, one of the top 3 all-time leading goal scorers over the season. You get certain decisions you get to make for yourself. This isn't one of them. Your team is paying you to bring home cups, and that's what this game is. So listen, if Pecky wants to play it up, that's fine, but I fully expect Thierry Henry to be on that ugly turf come a week from now.
Yeah, let's just flip it over to the refs. You mentioned a little bit about the protection the back line is getting out of Caldwell and Jones. You obviously have Lee Nguyen, who, I mean, is there, Henry, when he turns it on, is probably the most undefendable player in MLS. Robbie Keane is on that level right there. Donovan, when he's completely on top of his game, sometimes he drifts out of games a bit, especially now at 32 years old. I think Obafemi Martins is probably in that very small group, and so all these guys are playing in this round of matches, is what makes it so awesome. But if we're talking about their form, is Lee Nguyen the most undefendable player?
I don't know if he's undefendable because, well, listen, here's what Lee Nguyen has going for him. A lot of people don't talk about this. He's good going both ways. The guy's got right and left foot, great on his both feet. He can break you down with his left and break you down with his right. He can shoot with both feet, pass with both feet. He's very, very good in that regard. What I think New England has going for them even beyond that is the team dynamic around Lee Nguyen. Teal Bunbury, Charlie Davies, Kellen Rowe, these guys are running tirelessly in front of Lee Nguyen, which is causing defenses to kind of step off Lee Nguyen and open up gaps. It's not that he's always passing to these guys, but the really smart runs that are being made in front of him are opening up space for Lee Nguyen. And I think that's what Lee Nguyen's really good at doing, is stepping into that space, taking his own shot if it's there, or penetrating it with the dribble. And there's a lot of selfless running going on around Lee Nguyen that may not be getting a lot of play. But that's also is a testament to how good New England is as a team, that they have to respect the runs of those guys. A couple of months ago, no one was respecting the run of Charlie Davies. Okay, but because he's come on kind of late, people are respecting that. Teal Bunbury is doing some of the most yeoman work in the entire league, and no one's talking about Teal Bunbury, but that guy is working hard for the New England Revolution right now.
Teal Bunbury working hard as a wide player for the New England Revolution right now. Still can't finish to save his life. Sorry, Teal. I'm not trying to,
Dog in a probes.
Yeah, but you've seen him in moments where, I mean, that it doesn't even matter though. And I'm sure that I'm sure he wants to score goals. He's a striker at heart. But you figure, I make this move to the Revolution. I had the injury in Kansas City, Rookie of the Year. Thought I was going to have a national team future. It didn't really work out. Got injured. Move on to the Revolution. Is he going to play? They've got Kellen Rowe. They've got Kobayashi. They've got I'm missing somebody. Diego Fagundes, who apparently is the odd man out right now.
Yeah.
And they moved Bunbury to the wing, and he's just, as you said, he's busting his ass, and he makes that perfect pass for that late run for Lee Nguyen to score a goal, and it sort of sums up. The Revs are almost playing inside out a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. Lee Nguyen is scoring so many goals from midfield because those guys ahead of him are doing that work, and he is making those intelligent runs. He can create his own shot, don't get me wrong, but he's making those intelligent runs late out of midfield. This is very Michael Bradley in the Eredivisie, for 5 years, whenever that was.
That's a good call.
Yeah, for the national team as well. Michael Bradley making those late runs was a major part of the American attack, and it's true for the Revolution right now. And then you have Jermaine Jones doing whatever the hell Jermaine Jones wants to do.
I think that could be their Achilles heel, though, because Jermaine Jones is maybe doing too much at times. I mean, you're finding him all the way up by the corner flag. I mean, it's going to put a lot on Caldwell to make sure he can cover that. Jermaine Jones obviously is athletic enough to cover a lot of ground, but I'll also say this. I don't think New York has the spine to take advantage of Jermaine Jones getting out of position. I don't think Dax McCarty and Eric Alexander have the ability to necessarily overpower a midfield of Jermaine Jones and Caldwell. I think both teams are missing a bit of a creator that way. Granted, New England gets Lee Nguyen in front of them to create. New England has always been bereft of that creator, unless it's Thierry Henry, who plays more on the left and cuts inside. But I don't see New York having the midfield up the spine to take advantage of New England. So I think if New England is going to have the run of play, I think if they can take their chances during that run of play, New York doesn't have a chance. But if New England lets New York hang around, I think New York has a team to capitalize on the chances that they get.
Okay. Well, if Landon is the choice, and I don't expect him not to be, considering the way he's played, he is playing well. He's 35 years old. I mean, the guy is in work right now. He is playing well enough at the moment that I could imagine him victimizing the New England midfield just a little bit, especially if Jermaine Jones strays. If they lose him, not only as a runner, like he scored the goal in D.C., but as a provider. I mean, the guy can make a pass. And with you would think, okay, Tim Cahill, we got to get him in the lineup. Well, that's not the best New York setup right now. The best setup they've got is the two Frenchmen playing together, because they seem to have a simpatico type of relationship that allows them to make.
Why am I not in charge of marketing for someone? Why is there not a Gene Hackman-like poster of the French Connection with Thierry Henry and Loyan Dula's heads over it?
Why is that? Yeah, why has that not happened? That should absolutely
French Connection.
If that's on the New York Red Bulls Reddit somewhere, somebody has failed. If that's not on Twitter, why is that? Where's Mark Fishkin? We need a bat signal for Mark Fishkin, not because he could do the image, but because he should be extolling his people to get this to get
by his
French
people. By his people, though, do you mean the Jews?
Oh my good Lord, man! What?
Rangers out!
No, I mean New York fans. I mean Metro fans. I mean Red Bull fans. That's what I. He's like the Piper of Red Bulls fans.
Well, I mean, you said it. I was just getting clarification.
Okay, well, you went down a dark road, man. We don't need to be doing that.
Damn, dog, that's inappropriate.
I've been using that one too much tonight. Out west, we sort of addressed this already. We obviously talked about the goal-scoring issues with Seattle, and then obviously LA's explosion against RSL. I'm not going to put too much stock into those series heading into this particular series, Jared. This is the showdown we all expected. Certainly all the neutrals wanted to see. We got the preview at the end of the regular season. Is there any reason to think it might go differently? I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily means Seattle is the favorite, but do you think it will go differently here, especially since the first leg in LA, they've got to score goals?
I think this is more of a toss-up than people are giving it credit for. I think a lot of people are trying to buy into a bit of the narrative of LA is going to be the team coming out of the West because look how hot, look what they did to RSL. When RSL, a fantastic team. And listen, I don't want to take away from the fact that LA destroyed RSL in that game. I mean, destroyed their will. I mean, Tony Beltran must feel terrible right now. And Nick Raimondo, I was there personally. I saw Nick Raimondo's head just sink after every one of those goals. That was a huge win, but I don't think Seattle cares. I think Seattle knows they can play their game. The only thing I think Seattle really cares about, and what LA is probably like just salivating at the mouth over, is what's the health of Ozzie Alonso coming out of that game. That's the biggest thing to me over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's the X factor. It's funny because obviously we'll on Ozzie Alonso watch ahead of that series, and that's the key for the Sounders. I saw our friend Adam Serrano, LA Galaxy Insider, on Twitter not too long ago, tweeting that Bruce expects Leonardo to be ready for that series. Jared, are you jumping up and down over there? Are you excited?
Okay, I think I've been pretty well versed in my my lack of enthusiasm for one Leonardo, but truth be told, I think he has had a very good couple games. Last couple games he's come into, maybe the last 3 games. I still think his touch on the ball is horrid, and I hate when he's trapping the ball with a defender running at him, but defensively, he's been pretty dang sound, and that's hard for me to say because I love the Omar AJ dynamic, but full credit to Bruce Arena by putting AJ De La Garza out wide and Ishizaki out wide and really killing RSL.
No, but the question is going to be heading into this next series, what Bruce decides to do. Look, you got the big expanses there at the StubHub Center at home. We know LA likes to play at home. They play through the middle with Donovan and Keane, but they actually kind of do that from an outside. It's inside outside, yeah. So does Bruce Arena stick with AJ De La Garza on the right, go with Leonardo, especially considering the movement of Dempsey and Martins, because that's what I would worry about if I'm LA. You got 2 big tree trunks of center backs trying to keep up. 2 of the quickest guys off the movement, 1-2 touch passes. You need De La Garza and his quicker feet to keep. Look, not that Obafemi Martins won't bowl him over a couple of times, but I'd rather have that. And I don't know, Dan Gargan's completely healthy. He's your guy on the right. Is that the way to go, or do you stick with what got you here?
I think Bruce Arena doesn't care about the speed of Seattle, because is there a faster guy in the league than Joao Plata?
No, but he also plays wide, which kind of into the hands of LA.
Okay, but at the same time, he had no problem putting Leonardo and Omar Gonzalez next to each other against one of the fastest players in the entire league. Now, granted, Obafemi Martin's speed is a different kind of speed. I mean, he's quick with the ball. He's quick on the turn. That's one of the most impressive things about Obafemi Martin, how he turns with the ball so quickly and gets around a defender. But I think that Bruce Arena has I think he's fully comfortable with a number of 5 players across that back 4, and AJ De La Garza being the one that can play any of the 4 positions. I don't think you'll see a lineup that does not have AJ De La Garza in it, which is unfortunate, because that means if you go with Leonardo, you may have to sit one of the best players of the season for LA and Dan Gargan for a second time. But I think if AJ De La Garza is indeed the better defender over Dan Gargan, I think you have to be very careful when you leave AJ De La Garza in for the threats that Seattle has coming up the left-hand side in Marco Papa and Leo Gonzalez late. Marco Papa, I think when Seattle has done their best over the last 3 to 4 games, it's been through Marco Papa. And even on the night against Dallas, I think he was one of the more dangerous players coming out of midfield. So if that's the case, I think you want AJ De La Garza on Marco Papa.
Okay, fair enough. It should be a couple of fantastic conference finals. I mean, this, as you said, these are the 4 best teams. And even if you want to buy that, you should have got 2 of the best teams in the West. The Revs, the way that they've been playing. I mean, if you want to say DC United is the best team in the East, that's fair. But in terms of the ability at the front, especially goal-scoring ability, attacking ability, creative ability, the type of players you want to see on television making things happen, could you have gotten 4 better teams? Could you have picked 4 better teams? You could, considering the way that the playoffs set up and the fact that you have to eliminate certain teams, and you do have the West-East division.
this is the best we could have asked for. And what does that mean necessarily? I have no idea. Maybe it means that everything disappoints. Maybe it means we get a scoreless draw in LA and a 1-goal win in Seattle and somebody goes, or maybe the Revs and the Red Bulls is just a dog of a series. Even if somebody scores a lot of the goals, I'd rather see it competitive than be like a 6-0 sort of blowout over the course of 2 games.
I think you're right in when that the best 4 teams, the most entertaining, the neutrals won in this, no matter how you look at it. I think the networks won. And I think that's one of the things that I think is a more important thing here is that I'm pretty convinced that no matter what semifinal matchup goes on what network, they're going to get a very entertaining atmosphere and game for both legs on both sides, East and West Coast. I just think that we're going back to the West Coast one we were talking about in a second. This is a battle that'll be won in the center of midfield. Pineda and Alonso versus Juninho and Sarvis. And if Seattle can't have one of those two, I think they got a foot in the hole already. So we'll just have to see. And I'll say this. I don't think we will hear anything about Ozzy Alonso's status until 5 minutes before game time in the LA game. I don't think Ziggy Schmidt is going to let anyone know anything. It's one of the things he has going for him right now is that no one knows if one of the most impactful players for his team will be playing or not, except for him.
Well, I think that, that's the gamesmanship. And that's what we talk about all the time, Jared. We want that stuff. We need this personality. We need more of the. I would love for between now and when the series starts out in the Eastern Conference for Thierry Henry to say something inflammatory about the New England Revolution. No, they don't play real football or something. Just something. I don't care what it is. He could be lying. It could be true. I don't care. Same thing goes out west. Let's hear some build up. And I just watched. Speaking of that front, you remember when Giassi's artist was being signed as a homegrown player by the LA Galaxy? He said something to the effect of "My skills will blow your mind." Did he not say that? He did say that, right?
Something along those lines, yes.
I just watched the video today on Sports, following Giassi back home to Hawthorne, following him around a little bit to training, talking to his career path and else. He says that right after he said that quote, right after he was signed and he made that quote, Landon Donovan called him up and said, "You can't say stuff like that. You're in the spotlight now. You're a professional player. Get your head on right." And ever since then, just put his nose to the grindstone, hasn't said much, just been playing and working, and that's great for him. But it's terrible for us, Jared. It's terrible for us here at the Soccer Show.
So what you're saying is that you need more Eddie Johnsons. I
do need more Eddie Johnson, but I want Eddie Johnsons that come through. I need Eddie Johnsons that say things and then show up on the field and put the ball in the back of the net. I need guys. I want back and forth between coaches who don't like each other. I need some Mourinho Wenger action here in my league. Where is it?
You know what? I think Bruce Arena and Ziggy Schmidt are both too proud and too good of men to really acknowledge and go down that road. But they're both capable.
Oh,
those guys are both capable.
Yeah, they both have the ability to talk. Bruce especially never varnishes the truth. He just says what he thinks, but he won't go in that direction, especially with a guy like Ziggy, who he knows from way back. I mean, these guys back SoCal and coach circles, college coaching circles, a long time ago. They're both great coaches. I respect the hell out of them, but I need some juice ahead of these playoff series. Can we create some ourselves? Is that possible?
I think you have a lot more chance of getting Jay Heath and Mike Pecky going.
Nice. And those guys went up against each other a bunch in the Eastern Conference back in the day. You could imagine that maybe one would take a jab at the other one.
The only thing that Ziggy Schmidt and Bruce Arena
might say about.
Yeah, but the only thing that Ziggy Schmidt and Bruce Arena are going up against each other on is a buffet.
Oh man, there is a bit of a dichotomy between the coaching matchups, just in terms of belt size. Maybe.
Yeah. The gravitational forces at work. Yes, they're different.
And you do have look. I don't know how you feel about the Pecky sweater vest, but he does a better job than many MLS coaches have done before. We talked about Jay Heaps. Jay Heaps is on point with the style. Ben Olsen's obviously on point with his style most of the time. We've had a new dawn. We haven't mentioned this in a long time because I think we've just sort of accepted that now MLS coaches, they need to dress for the job. Bruce, okay. Blazer and turtleneck, whatever. Siggy does his scarf thing.
Yeah, there's not much flavor there. And at this point, I'm almost convinced that Ziggy Schmidt has that scarf like surgically like attached to his neck. What happens when he comes to LA and it's warm? Does he still wear it? I don't remember. Does he put it on for warm games too?
I think he does. I think he wears it all the time. I think it's just his go-to thing.
The neck sweat.
Yeah, it's got to be something. All right, looking forward to these MLS Cup playoff matchups, conference finals. I should mention that we are headed towards the Soccer Bowl, the championship of the NASL, San Antonio and Fort Lauderdale. I don't have any particular insight into that game. I don't know a whole lot about these teams, but I did want to acknowledge it. NASL getting ready to their champion this weekend. And in that vein, ahead of that game, I've been told by some sources that the future of the Atlanta Silverbacks determined at a meeting around Soccer Bowl. So be on the lookout for that because, obviously you got MLS coming to Atlanta in 2017, Jared. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see the Silverbacks go away. I want to see something happen, keep that vibrancy.
Do you think there's a merger thing kind of going?
I don't know. I mean, last I heard, there wasn't financial support to keep them running. So we'll have to see how that goes.
I blame Eric Winalda.
All right. That's going to you blame Eric Winalda? That's rough, man. All right. That's going to do it for us on Backheel. It's a Best Soccer Show again. Backheel.com. Go check it out. It's very cool stuff. Got the long-form story about soccer, American soccer on the internet, a love story. We're going to have lots of posts from the guys at Open Wide for Some Soccer. Hilarious mofos that they are.
And I might write something.
Jared DuBois is going to jump in because I'm going to make him do so. I'm going to contribute some stuff. It should be a good time. All of your podcasts will be there for this show. Open Wide, Seeing Red. Should be good stuff. All right. Anything else? Am I missing anything?
I'm just going to go dream of Kim Kardashian and leave you.
Yeah, you're going to do that. You're going to go break the internet. All right, man. We'll talk to you guys later.
Danger zone!
Duh and or hello.
Get to the chopper! Oh, it's incredible!
I am Mikkel Målsen and Paulsen Diskerud.
I'm Epic Wins.
Damn, dog. You're not close.
Skin that smoke